Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Mandy Van Havermit and I am an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! From Gray Eagle, Minnesota, and I'm going to share with you today a couple of alternatives to the Paper Pumpkin, the May 2023 Exploring in Color Paper Pumpkin from Stampin' Up! And actually, I'm going to be using, there was an add-on to this kit this month of some cards. There were 18 cards with envelopes in it for $10. To get this, as I'm recording this video right now, it is still available, this add-on. It's $10. You need to be a Paper Pumpkin subscriber to purchase this add-on. So if you're at all interested in it, I would act soon. They're phenomenal. I love them. This kit is phenomenal just because it is woodsy and outdoorsy, and that is so right up my alley. But I just want to share with you, there are like I said, there's 18 cards and envelopes in here, and there are 6 each of these 3 designs. How phenomenal are these? I just love them. And I'm going to show you some samples of the cards we're going to make. They're actually, these are the cards that I'm going to be making. I used, let's see here, I used this here card to make these 2 cards. This time I'm going to use this card base to make our 2 cards. So let's get started with that. First things first, we're gonna cut it, because you know I'm all about cutting my cards to make more. So out of this card base, I'm actually going to get 2 cards. So we're gonna cut that right down the center at 4 1/4. So I'm going to use this card, this piece as a layer. And this piece here, let me pull in my cheat sheet. I'm actually going to make a Polaroid card. I love making Polaroid cards. Remember old Polaroid pictures back in the day? I just love them. So now you need to decide, which side do you want the Polaroid to be? Do you want a picture of that as your Polaroid? Or do you want a picture of that as your Polaroid? We're going with this. And that's how I decided. So what I'm going to need for the picture image is 3 1/4 by 3, and I want my 3 1/4 to be this way. So I'm going to just trim off. I'm going to save this piece for my other card, so I'm going to set that aside for right now. And so this piece, I am got it 3 1/4 this way. I need to cut it at 3, so we're gonna go just like that. Right there. So this is going to be our picture. We probably could have cut it up a little higher, but that's okay. This is going to be phenomenal. I'm very excited. This piece you can use as a scrap. You can use it some other project. All right, so now we need to cut the panel. And I like to cut, this was the part that was the fold. So I'm going to cut that off just because you wouldn't have to. I just kind of like it cut off, and I like the size of 4 by 5 1/4. Just a basic panel size. So now the rest of my pieces that I need for this card is a piece of, I'm all done with this, a piece of Pebbled Path, and that's 8 1/2 by 5 1/2, scored down the middle at 4 1/4. And then I've got a piece of basic white. So I'm just following my recipe here, 3 1/2 by 4. Okay, so I'm going to fold and burnish my Pebbled Path. Set that aside. And then this piece of Balmy Blue, Boho Blue, I'm so sorry. I'm going to use the Timber embossing folder. And I'm going to, I want the image, so if you look at my sample card, this is the way I put it in. So my Stampin' Up! Logo is here. My blue side is up. Because remember, we're using a card base, so the back is white, the top is blue. And that's going to give us the raised part pointing up, similar to this, so I can go in and use a sponge and sponge that. So I am going to line it up, because there is a wood grain, so I want to line it up with my line here. And then I'm going to pull in my plates, and this is a 3D embossing folder, so this is the recipe we're going to use. So we're just going to use plate 1 and plate 4. So plate 1, embossing folder, plate 4. Let's run that through the cut and emboss machine. So just like that, we've got this beautiful embossed image now. So I'm going to pull in my Pebbled Path ink pad, and I have a piece of paper here. If you follow me ever, you know I lose things constantly. It's just my nature. So I've got just a wedge of a sponge. If you've been a longtime Paper Pumpkin subscriber, you should have at least one of those laying around from a former kit. Otherwise, you can purchase them from a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I like these because they're a little firmer and you can't really hold a ton of ink on them, especially for this technique. I wouldn't suggest using a blending brush because those really get into the crevices. This one you really want just to brush. And another way to do it, we're going to cover this middle, so you can start kind of in the middle and just put a light brush on it, or a light, like, not brush, what am I trying to say? Like, just rub it a little bit. You don't want it to be too dark, but it's gonna add a lot. So, and it's woodsy, so if it's not exactly even, that's okay. But it is going to make that wood grain stand out just a little bit more to put that ink on there. And a little bit at a time, because you can always build color up. You can't take it away. So, doesn't that just, I mean, it makes it pop so much. I love it. So, just like that. Set that aside. I'm gonna close that because I will make a mess with it, I know that. All right, so I'm just going to attach this directly down to that Pebbled Path. I think Pebbled Path is one of my new favorite. It's an in color, but boy, is that a good neutral. I love it. It goes so good with gray granite too. If you haven't put them together, put gray granite and Pebbled Path together. I'm telling you, they are like the same tone. They are so good. So good. All right. So when you're using the embossing folder, it's going to kind of curl it a little bit. Just make sure you use enough adhesive to hold that down nicely on there. So we're going to build our Polaroid picture. And I like to set it down just like that. I'm not adhering anything, and there's a reason why. I'm going to bring in the sentiment from the stamp set. It says, it doesn't matter where you're going, it's who you have beside you. What a beautiful sentiment. And remember, I haven't attached that down yet, but I'm going to ink up my stamp, and I'm going to straight down and straight up. Because if this doesn't work, I've really got 4 places and it didn't work. I don't like how that looked. So here, let's do this first. Oh, look at that. I've got 4 different places. There is always a way to cover your oopses. Beautiful. Love that so much more. All right, so now I can attach my image down. And I am a sucker for these Polaroid cards. I love them. This isn't the first time I've made a Polaroid card. I just think when you've got an image like that, it just brings back so many memories of when I was a kid, because that was the camera we had. So I'm just going to attach that directly onto my card. And they're so easy. Beautiful. All right, now I'm going to grab a piece of basic white to put on the inside. And I think I'm just going to do the happy birthday like that. Let's do the coffee cup. I haven't done that one yet, but I'm going to do the coffee cup and put that on the inside. So here, let's bring in my Pebbled Path again. For this image, I'm actually going to bring in a Stampin' Pierce mat also. With photopolymer, with words I don't get too concerned, but with images, especially solid images, I really like to have a Stampin' Pierce mat and I haven't used this stamp yet, so let's hope. Fingers crossed. You know what? going to show you something here. I'm going to grab a scrap of paper. And this is just a little scrap that I had sitting around. Sometimes photopolymer stamps get like, when they're in production or whatever, a new photopolymer stamp seems to have kind of a film on it sometimes. And this one did. I just don't like the image that it gave. It's like kind of broken up. So I just take a piece of cardstock and I rub the stamp on it, kind of give it a little twist and like pull it a little bit. And then I'm going to bring in my chamois, wash it off really good, and then dry it. Let's try it again. Let's flip this piece over. So much better. Can you see the difference? That's why I did that. So let's put our coffee cup right down there. Oh, I like that so much better. Okay, and then our happy birthday, because I never seem to have enough birthday cards. Beautiful. All right, so let's set that aside. I had ink on me. I'll come back and fix it. So there is card number 1. I just love Polaroid cards. Okay, let's set that aside. And now we're going to bring this back in. So I have got my pieces here. I've got another piece of Pebbled Path, 8.5 by 5.5. I don't have any ink on my hands. I've got a piece of Mossy Meadow that is 2.5 by 4.25. I've got my piece of my picture, so it's 2.25 by 4.25. So we're going to layer that right on that. Apparently I did not cut that at 4.25. So let's do that right now. Just like that. Easy to remedy. So there we can layer that right on there. I think it's just so pretty. I love the greens. All right, so we'll fold that in half and burnish it. And then I'm going to use 2 punches on this card. I'm going to use the decorative circle punch, and then I'm also going to use a 2-inch circle punch. And I've got my sentiment that reads, life is not meant for good friends life is meant for good friends and great adventures. So let's get putting our card together. Super simple. Excuse me. We're going to adhere these two and just center them together, line them up on top and bottom. And right there. And so then I'm going to attach that right there as well. Perfect. And now I'm going to also, let's see. Got my desk, and I've got a little bit of an overhang here. I think I'm going to try to trim that off. It is a little overhang, but I just don't like it. So there we go. All right, I'm going to take my boot. I've got my Pebbled Path here again, and I've got my cute little boot stamp, my hiking boot. Stamp that right down in the corner. And then I've got my scrap piece of basic white, and I've got my stamp. Life is meant for good friends and great adventures. Truer words were never spoken. Love that. All right. So I'm going to use the circle punch, and I am going to punch that out. And now I'm going to take, I've got a scrap of Mossy Meadow and my decorative circle punch, and I am just going to punch one of those out. All right. And I think this has got a little bit, like, they're symmetrical. Like, these two sides are one shape and these two sides are another. So just be cautious when you're putting it down. Be mindful, not cautious, but mindful of which way you want that to set. And I'd like it to set that way. Just center it on there. I love when we can layer punches together because I love good punches. Okay, now I've got my twine. We're going to use the twine that came with. I had used, here it is, this twine. This is what I was going to use. This is the pack of twine that comes, it's the In Color jute trim, and I think it's just phenomenal. I've used it, I've taken it apart also, like the strands apart, and you can get 3 strands out of there. This time I'm just going to tie a big bow, just like you'd tie your shoes, only big. Okay. I need a tail. There we go. And let's see, will that stick out from underneath? It sure will. Perfect. Okay. Trim that off. And I am going to break these tails apart because I just think it looks a little better when it's a little rustic on the ends. Definitely would not have to do this, but I think it adds a little bit something. And to me, the wilderness is a little bit more rustic looking anyhow, so break those apart at the ends, just like that. And now I am going to attach that right down there, just like that, with a glue dot. I'm going to pull it over that way just a little bit. And so I'm just going to put the knot right on top of that glue dot. And then I'm going to go a little backwards from what we kind of think of with dimensionals. You know I'm going to lose those things. That's how I roll. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. Let's trim this corner up here. And 4. So pull those off. And then we're just going to set this directly on top. And so just like that. Isn't that a neat little trick? It looks like so fancy behind there, and it's really just a common little bow. I'll trim those off just a little bit more because they were quite long compared to the other side. They still are. There we go. All right. So let's put an inside in this card again. This would be a great thinking of you card. Just to send to a friend that you're thinking of them, right? All right, so there is card number 2. So these are my two, like the 2 versions of my card, right? The different backgrounds. And then this is the same again. I just love them. And so there's, if you want to take a screenshot so you can get the measurements for those. Again, my name is Mandy Van Havermet. The link to the card pack, the additions card pack, will be in the description of this video. It is available, like I said, as I'm recording of this video. It's still available. It's going to be, once it's gone, it's gone. So if you are interested in getting the card pack, the add-on to this paper pumpkin, I would act sooner rather than later. Thank you so very much for watching, and I hope to see you again real soon. Bye-bye.